for, what are you doing today?
We have a meeting. He's invited.
Oh,
In fact, no.
He was invited to come.
I was like, I don't
By
see.
agenda request.
What are you doing here? How come you're in here? All
Yeah,
right.
no, I didn't see it on
We
the-
are up, just to let everyone know, we are now streaming live. So what you say do is being put out and being broadcast. So
So keep it clean, Kyle.
first on our agenda, Chad Brown regarding request for sponsorship on a grant. No? Nobody here from? Am I supposed to do this one?
It says Commissioner Moser.
Well, that's, just, I've read it, it's in our packet,
Yeah.
but this is the, Port of Marsh Valley Canal Company. It's seeking, oh, maybe,
Maybe it's equal.
Yeah, those, yeah. Canal Company?
come on up. We're right on time. All right. Please state your names, who you represent.
I'm David Allen with Port of Marsh Valley Canal Company.
John Hyde, Portland Marsh Valley Canal Company in the City of Down.
Chad Brown, Franson Civil Engineers.
Okay. You requested a meeting.
Sure. So the canal company has come across an opportunity that we think provides some benefits to the town of Downey and also the irrigation community in southeastern Bannock County. We came across this opportunity and we actually located an engineering firm that has been through, who understands the opportunity, been through the process several times, and that's who Chad represents. And so we brought Chad to get into some of the details with you. First of all, to give an overview of what is, basically it's a grant that's available to do some flood mitigation and some improvements in water management for irrigation. And I'll turn the time over to Chad and he can tell you more about it.
So I had provided a link to give a little more information about this funding. I don't know if you've had a chance to look into that, but what it is it's through the NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. The program specifically is called PL 566. And the reason, and I'll get into the details of that, but I guess maybe make it clear up front, the reason that Downey and Portneuf are seeking the support of the county is the stipulations of the funding. The funds have to come through an entity that has eminent domain in that area, and so the irrigation company doesn't have that authority. They're unable to receive those funds directly. Some of our other clients where we've worked with other irrigation companies have worked with like water conservation districts, the counties, to receive those funds and then pass those funds, directly on to the irrigation companies. And so that's really what we're seeking, is to see if the county would be open to being that funding entity to receive the funds, and we can get into the details of some of that, but that's really kind of asked right now is in order for them to receive the funds, we need a sponsor. We need somebody that's willing to meet that role, to receive the funding. And so the funding is primarily for flood control, flood management, looking at infrastructure, even looking higher up in the watershed of ways to prevent the runoff, control that flooding as it comes down into the communities. Really what's happening now is it hits the canal and then it gets funneled into Downey and other communities, and canal companies, their systems are not designed, they get smaller the further they go down, and stormwater seems to collect and go the opposite, it needs to get bigger. And so what we're trying to do is look at opportunities to manage that flooding as well as improving the irrigation delivery. And so that's, maybe I'll pause for just a minute. Is that, I guess, a possibility? Is Bannock County open to that, being the sponsor and taking that role on?
We are passed through for different entities and different things. Actually,
So typically on your grant, it's a non-matching grant, correct? We're not the matching
You're
entity.
not at all.
Okay, so we have to be the pass-through agent as the sponsor. So
Yeah.
typically there's a grant fee that's assigned to it that is for auditing and the accounting that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
If there isn't something in that grant side, or that we're not responsible for matching or doing anything other than just the pass-through agent, I'm okay with that. The flood mitigation, especially with what you guys are trying to work on and what you're trying to do, is a good thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those things that we need to work on it, and that infrastructure is something that we need to provide.
Mm-hmm.
But what the other thing we want to make sure of is whenever we do grants and stuff like that, sometimes, especially the federal government, puts some things in place and strings that are attached that we don't know about.
Right.
So sometimes, like when you do certain types of grants for playgrounds or other things, you can, once it's there, you can never change it. We'll give you a certain amount of money up front, but every 10 years you're going to go in and dredge it, or you're going to go in and recut it, or you're going to go do that. And we want to make sure that those are things that we're not responsible for.
Yeah, and so Franklin County in Idaho, just south of you guys, we're doing a project right now where Franklin County is that role for the irrigation company there. And that was one of their concerns. They didn't want it to hit their books because of the audits, and then it triggers them into another category that's a little higher than my understanding as far as the accounting. But we were able to work out those details to where it really was strictly a pass-through, and there were no strings. The thing with this funding is the flood control is actually funded at 100%. They cover all the environmental studies, the design, and construction. When it comes to the irrigation side, they'll cover 100% of the environmental, the design, and up to 75%. So that the irrigation company would still have to come up with that 25 matching. They're not looking to the county to do that. It would be important for Marsh Valley to come up with that. But
My other question would be, because Corps of Engineers and EPA gave up supremacy of waterways of the U.S. back to the states, does this trigger any type of, it's not considered navigable waterways, but
No.
does it trigger a higher level of environmental protections on those canals? And does it require DEQ and EPA approvals?
we will work with, and the NRCS will reach out to EPA, the state, and I'll say, use the word solicit, but
Ask comment.
ask for comment. Are they interested in being a cooperating agency? On other projects, depending on the area, they have.
Be careful what you ask for.
Right, right. And we're not saying we want you to be, but that is part of the process. You have to give the other agencies that opportunity if they want to be a cooperating agency. Some do say, yeah, we got some other things going on in the area, so we want to be involved because we think it's going to help us here, there, whatever. Other areas, they're like, no, we're okay. We're going to keep us informed, but we don't want to be a cooperating agency. But so the environmental assessment, which is really the first phase, I mean, that's about a 2-year process to go through. It's fairly extensive. It's not a full-blown EIS, but it's pretty extensive. Yeah.
I'm okay with
and
that.
I didn't see an amount that you was asking for in the grant.
We don't have that yet. We are working on the funding application right now, but we felt like this was a pretty important step in the process. We need a sponsor before we say.
I would love to have this put on record. This is like the first time we've had somebody come say, okay, we're looking at this. What do you think first before you come and just volunteer us to do that?
So, I would like to talk to our attorney, and I'd also like to talk to our county assessor, or not assessor, auditor. And get their point of view too before we make a commitment, but it sounds like something that.
Another point, John is on the town board, and it's been discussed with the mayor, and the mayor sounds like he's signed up, so Danny would be a sponsor. In a couple of weeks, they'll have a board meeting, and this will be addressed with Danny. speak to them also as responsible. But since Downey's only a portion of this district that we're looking at, we really need the county as the.
We got half help on the other end.
And like Commissioner Moser said, the attorney, the prosecutor's actually our attorney, if they bless off on it and the auditing blesses off on it, which I don't see red flags there, but we always do this to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm supportive of it, and I think it's something, anything we can do to mitigate and remediate some of those stormwaters and things and get them out, so that's not happening.
Something, I guess, food for thought, as you are aware of other needs and concerns. I mean, our focus right now is Downey, Fort Smith, Marsh Valley. This project can go up to 250,000 acres. You can go much larger with this. So if you are aware of other things within that area, it's Aramo and
Essentially,
yeah,
Lava.
you know.
no, downstream from lava.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
we
not-
went,
no, yep, that's
probably
right.
not go all the way up to lava, but, along that corridor, if there are other things, it could be looked at through this study, through this environmental process. And so, just
Well,
pass that
wouldn't
along.
you actually go right to your source, which would be the reservoir?
Well, you could,
I mean,
Are you
in
That-
reality,
that-
if
yeah.
it grew that far.
Right.
our diversion point off the Port Neuf is where the old steel bridge was on Highway 30. That's where we divert from. And then Raymond Road, above Marsh Valley High, all the way straight through to Downey, 21 miles of open canal. So anything above or below for,
This is the group you want to talk to about the bridges?
By the way,
Keep costing us
by
money.
the
by the way, so I have these bridge decks. that
So
get
what I was
really
gonna-
expensive.
yeah, you're about ready for another one on,
Yeah.
Sublette Road.
Yeah, so
Sublette
that's in the
Road.
budget.
So-
We don't know about that yet.
So, I think where Chad was going with that, is there anything in Road and Bridge? Is there anything we can do? There's a lot of stormwater, then there's a canal on all those roads, Sublette Road, Arkansas Road. Any of those that run east and west.
So I start looking at those anywhere that you can, if we could work it into for stormwater remediation for culverts, that kind of problem. We had one of the culverts up by Commissioner Moser's house that gummed up Rapid Creek, and we get stuff and gunk and all sorts of things. Anything that we can do to help mitigate any of that runoff, any of those things, those bridges, like the decking of the Sublette Bridge, well, $100,000 kind of, I wonder how many cars we would have to make that
So if it's flood mitigation, so we gotta
Yep.
use the right terms.
Yep, flood mitigation.
Flood,
Yep.
not stormwater.
Yep.
But flood, then yes.
Oh,
And that's
oh,
where the creativity.
Totally, we need to work then, and we
That's where the
probably,
creativity comes into how we mitigate some of that, but, I mean, I don't think you could say we're gonna replace a bridge
No.
under this, but we could look at culverts, which
what we need to talk to is
are bridges at times.
Wes, our,
Emergency.
what's Wes's last name?
Yeah, your road
Jones.
department
Wes
guys
Jones.
and.
We need to talk to our emergency
Yes.
manager, because there's some other granting opportunities that they do with those things in flood
Yeah.
remediation and mitigation, culverts, bridges, that kind of thing that would tie into this. And so there might actually be some ways to overlay some
Yes.
granting opportunities that would make this project a little bit more,
No, I expected, if you guys were in favor, that there would be some additional meetings with the boots on the ground kind of guys, so, yeah,
in my other life, I'm a engineering officer with the Corps of Engineers.
okay.
So I'm not one of the dirt guys, but I blow it up. So
Okay. That's
I have to
good.
deal with you guys on a regular basis, so thank you.
Okay?
That's all we have.
All right.
Thank you.
Just want to say, I failed to do this at the beginning. I want to thank you for your time. We appreciate your time and your consideration.
Let us come in.
We know you're busy.
Glad to help.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't tell me we're on camera today. I was out playing in the mud, so I didn't bother to go and put a shirt and tie on. So I look like a scrounge today.
At this time, I'd like to amend our agenda. We had
All alcohol
a
licenses.
couple of catering alcohol permits that come in after our meeting this morning.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that to amend the agenda to reflect the additional alcohol permits that need review.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the 2 alcohol permits that are presented, one for cocktails and mocktails and one for Aladdin Food and Beverage.
There's a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Dan? Hello.
First of all, thank you for submitting some of the concerns that me and you had a conversation.
Oh, yes.
And I went back, after that. Carden Payne is a friend of mine, and I went back and I pulled and I actually found that letter that we were talking about. I went back and reviewed what you were talking about, and yes, okay.
Oh, good. I'm Dan Harrelson with Portland Greenway, and want to thank Commissioner Tubby for recommending that they come in and speak with you guys. I sometimes get down in the technical details and forget the communication details, and I just want to come in and update you on what the Greenway is working on and what Idaho Transportation is working on. As you probably know, Idaho Transportation has got a big project to reconfigure the interchange between I-15 and I-86, and that's in 2023 and 24. And so as part of their project, they're going to be building a separated non-motorized route from the signal at Pocatello Creek Road and the on-ramp up to the big River of Life cross on the hill by the event center. And Idaho Transportation is limited. They can't spend money outside the highway right-of-way. So the Greenway is working with the Transportation Department to try to build from the River of Life cross there on the hill over to the event center. And we came and talked with the commissioners. Well, I think we just corresponded with the commissioners a little over a year ago, and had a route proposed and got some comments back from the commissioners. And the route that is in the packet that I sent was based on those discussions. The line in the packet that's shown, the red line is the piece that Idaho Transportation is going to be putting in. The yellow is the piece that I wanted, or I think it's green actually. The green is the piece that we're trying to start designing soon and fundraising soon. And then the blue is the existing trail that the county put in 2 or 3 years ago. I want to get a contract with an engineering company in place to design the piece from the cross over to the event center so that we have a package that's ready to build when ITD is out there building. We're also going to start a big fundraising campaign this fall. We estimate that the piece from the River of Life cross over to the event center is going to be about $170,000. When we're finished, we expect the whole trail will have a value of about $1.7 million. So we're getting a 10-to-1 multiplier on the local funds, matching them in with the ITD funds. We think it'll be good to have a safe, non-motorized route up to the event center and the wellness complex. It'll connect. It's a real key link between Chubbuck and Pocatello and the connection there. And again, the multiplier of 10-to-1 on local funds to the total value of that project. So that's what we're working on. We're shooting for a design agreement soon this summer to get design started. Construction would be in early 2024. The spring of 2024 would be the construction on the trail. We're going to come out with a big fundraising campaign this fall. We're looking more for corporate sponsors than we are for bake sale type fundraising. It's going to be a signature or marquee kind of sponsorship for this trail. And so with that, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
No, as we had our conversation, and just my concerns that I had expressed, and I'm glad to put this in, that this is not a county-funded project, and that the maintenance is not, it's not ours. I appreciate having stuff put together, but unlike the other two, I'm not shirt and tie today because I was up actually, trying to fix sprinklers and we've been all mowing lawns and doing, because we don't have maintenance available right now. And that's really the just that issue is we get a lot of asks to do things, and we get the initial, hey, here, go do the project, but then there's never a consideration of maintenance, cleanup, and that stuff. So, with that, being said, and how the project is and where it's going and what's going on, I appreciate that.
And I like the project myself. We have thoughts and ideas of a few things happening up in that area. The walking, non-motorized would be ideal.
Would fit in.
Would fit in perfectly for some of the other activities we want to.
Great answer.
Yeah, and some of the things too, like I said, when we were up there the other day, there might be things on the horizon that while you're in design that we would just make sure that we might have to. We don't want to pave the road, just rip the road back up to put a pipe in and repave the road if we don't have to do that.
Right.
So there's some of those things that way, but we would work with you guys to know about those things as we start moving forward.
Okay.
So I'm okay with it. I'm good. Like I said, you've answered questions. We have things identified. We're aware that where we're going, and that's one of the things that helps us to, because we're in budget season, not have a heart attack when someone wants to give us hey, we got another 2 miles of trail that you got to go make. What? So.
Well, and I have been talking with Mike Chikolowski.
Good.
And we'll give him review opportunities as these plans develop.
Good.
As the conceptual plans and also the engineering plans develop.
I'd really like to see us enclose our trail so that you don't go out into the parking lot to finish across there.
We actually have one area that
You notice that?
the parking lot is actually the north end of that loop. It doesn't actually have a path itself, and so we actually would like to finish that area to make for safety. Ernie can show you where it's.
This walking path right here.
Oh, right. Close that
Yes.
loop.
Just say your name and everything up there.
I'm Taylor Jordan, president of Greenway.
I'd really like to
Close that.
close this loop off so it comes across here, where right here's the playground area. So you have to go out into the parking
No,
lot.
I know what, yeah, I know what you're talking
To
about.
finish that path off.
I will look at that.
It's incomplete to me.
Yeah, right, I agree.
So, but yeah, that would be just as design issues, or maybe some overall concept or use of the facility before actual construction kicks off. Just make sure to stay in contact that way.
Okay.
Because like I said, as long as we have those things, I identified who's taking care of what and how we're doing it. As I say, let's go forward and do some good engineering.
Okay.
Is the events coordinator, Guy Patterson, still the one?
Effective today, no. Scott Crowder,
No, it's
who was our chief of staff, we
moved
gave him
him.
the job.
What was his last name? Scott
Crowder.
Crowder?
There.
Crowder.
Baptism by fire. I'll just tell you, he's jumped right in the middle of some stuff up there.
Just want to make sure.
And like I say, just coordinate with those guys, and that was what kind of, was like, you got off the lawnmower last time, and we have engineers poking around, and what are engineers doing up here, and who's authorized this, and wait a second, did somebody just commit us to build something, and I'm gonna get another bill for something, let's not do that, so that's why,
Okay.
so,
All right, we'll keep you apprised.
cool, thank you.
Love to be part of that path.
Thanks for having us on the agenda today.
You bet, thank you.
Thank you.
Shanda, what time is the judge supposed to be here? 2 o'clock. Okay, Melissa? You like coming and seeing this too.
Oh. I'm on a roll. You guys don't see me in ever, and now you've seen me twice in a week.
I know, it's
You're
awesome.
welcome.
It's awesome.
Well, today I am here because Veteran Services is preparing for our 9/11 commemoration that we usually do on the front steps. And this year it's going to be a little bit different because it's a Saturday. And it's the 20th commemoration. Years in the past, I've been encouraged by our chiefs that were there in attendance to block off the road. And in order to do that legally, I mean, I know the mayor's there and you guys are there and the chiefs of police are there, but we still have to do it the right way. So they encouraged me to get a parade permit. And unfortunately, I did that and then realized that I probably should have come here first. So I'm just going to apologize right up front and say, sorry, I already did it. But they gave us the parade permit, and I also sent in a request to Ryan for the liability insurance that we'll need for that little bit of time. So you guys have that information. With the parade permit, I sent in a quick little map so they'll see where we were trying to block off. So we will block off parking in front of the courthouse the night before, and we will block off that just one lane probably around 10 o'clock when I first get there, and then during the ceremony itself we're going to block off both lanes just for the safety factor. This year is going to incorporate, I believe, a walk by the Student Veterans Association at ISU. They're going to do some kind of a ruck march, fun run, 2K, I don't know what they're calling it yet, something or other, and it's going to probably run from our courthouse to the memorial building, or from the memorial building to the courthouse. They haven't really squared it away yet, but I know it's going to happen.
Tell them no boots and utes, Ron.
No boots and utes?
No boots and utes. You know boots and utes are?
I'm not
boots
sure.
And you.
Oh.
And you're in boots and you run the thing. That's not fun.
You don't want to do that? Okay.
No, let's not do that.
Well,
They always want to do that. Please.
I was incorporating the silkies, but they said no.
Oh.
I thought it sounded like a good idea.
No, that's the Marines that wear those. We don't wear those.
Well, you know, there are a few Marines in the
No,
area.
no. We don't torture people that way.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So I am just going to apologize for having done that, but it is completed now. It has been signed off. But if we need to submit with alternate signatures, I'm sure I wouldn't be the first one to have screwed something up at the city and need to be resubmitted.
We're good.
Okay.
Just let us know ahead of time next time.
Yeah, just let us know before you do. I will. You know what? It's so new for me to have to do this, to be honest with you. My brain is just stuck on get it done. Here's where I want to be, and this is what has to happen, and I just do it. And I apologize. I know as soon as I had hit submit, I went, oh, dang. So.
No one can bind the county except us.
Yeah, no, and I realize that. So, just want you guys to know that I have made that correction in my brain. Hopefully I'm on track. I don't do it very often, make these things, and usually I wouldn't have even done that part, except it is a Saturday and we are going to expect a little bit bigger crowd. I hope we have a bigger crowd because it is a Saturday. I hope we have a bigger crowd because SVA is going to join a event with us. And I think that also there is a veteran service organization in town that is planning on doing a luncheon at the memorial building that same day.
Yeah,
so
Legion usually does it.
Huh?
It's either the Legion or...
It's going to be Ambit.
Is it going to be Ambit does this year?
It's on the flyer.
Yep, it's going to be Ambit. Well, this is just a draft. This flyer is just a draft. It certainly isn't anything, but we will have the motorcycles. I have made contact with them, and they will write in. And so that was one of the reasons also for the parade permit, just so that we weren't doing anything wrong. So those pieces are done. Do you guys have any questions for me? Guidance? Suggestions?
No. One thing I do have for you that's kind of, I'm good to sign and all that, but the one thing I do have for you is July 2nd. I got that. I need to know uniform of the day. I need to know what they're, because I'm gonna be in the uniform of the day. I have something else going on that time, and I'm not gonna step into a, because the Navy, I don't know if they're in their whites, their A's, or what they're wearing, and I need to know.
I'll
And
square their way.
If you can just ask me.
It might
and
be,
let me know.
it might be semi-casual.
I'm assuming it's
private
gonna,
would
I'm
be
assuming it's gonna be their A's, their variant, their A's of the ASU. So I just need to know that,
Okay,
Okay.
I will clarify and let you guys
because
know.
I'll have to change before I come, because I'll be in combat uniform for Military Appreciation Day at the baseball game. Where we're throwing baseballs and shirts, and I can't show up in that uniform. It's not authorized. It's just, it's,
Right, I got you.
you know how it
I
goes.
got you.
You know how it goes.
I'll get you correct dress and get
Cool,
you going
thank you.
on that. So are we good to go on this scenario?
Yes.
And then next year, I promise I will just send out the thing that says, please get us a parade permit.
Yes.
It would have been much easier for me had I just said, please get us a parade permit. But I'm getting it all together, so. All right, thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yeah, they're probably up there.
Okay. Scott's not coming, right?
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone with us now?
No,
No,
we'll have to call
we
him
haven't, no.
whenever we're ready for him. No, there's the judge.
Come on up.
Where do y'all want to sit? You get your seat.
Leaving the judge out on his own today.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is his assigned seat.
Steve probably knows more than me on this one.
I think he has a. I think you have a name tag.
Well, the reason we wanted to talk, and Randall's back here, but we've had the conflict attorneys, and Matt's actually done a lot of work with it in the past. And we as commissioners don't feel like we have the skills to negotiate with them and talk with them. I know it's kind of challenging to have the prosecutor's office do it, and we also know that we talked to Dave the other day, we thought he was gonna be here. It's kind of challenging there also, and that's why we invited Carrie here and you, Judge, to come and say,
Give us some guidance.
do we have a
Well,
direction?
Statutorily, really, when you're dealing with conflict attorneys, or public defenders, it's really your call and how you want to do this. We have statutes in place with regard to, we have our in-house public defender, like Dave. We have a process that we go through. We have a committee that we assemble with both, I believe, judges in there. We've got at least one or two attorneys from the area, that sort of thing. And maybe it's something that you want to resource out like that, is to put an ad hoc committee together and look at applications and work with applicants with regard to qualifications and whether or not they'd be appropriate to negotiate with, or that sort of thing. That might be one idea. I'm sure Steve has some other thoughts too. I don't want to take away from him, but I mean, that's one thing. I don't know where you're all at. I know it's frustrating.
The other thing that's really kind of hard is how, we don't know exactly how to gauge how many of these conflicts do we need? Why are we having, I mean, I understand there's a conflict, but all of a sudden we go from having 0 one day to 35, and the cases didn't go to our public defender's office, or did or didn't, or however. And again, statute of where we need to be careful of stepping into the public defender's office and saying, hey, you're not going to conflict that out, you're going to take that. Well, we can't do that. And that's the problem that we run into is,
Yeah, you have to
how do we do that?
Office that they know what the conflict reality is appropriate. And the judges do have oversight over that. It's not, it shouldn't be just a rubber stamp, because every one of them has to come to the judge for review and approval when it comes to conflicts. And oftentimes, you can't get a lot of detail of what the conflict is, because it might reach client confidentiality. But at least there's a sense, and the judge should have a sense when they get it. And it's something that, again, I can always talk to the judges about, is to have some concerns with regard to just conflict that they can talk with the attorneys about and get some more information. But generally speaking, they're pretty good about that. And Steve, I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, I never really know why it's being a case is being conflicted. And, you know, I think, I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission here, but it would be, from my perspective, nice to know what exactly, what are the standards, I don't know. You know, because I think it was Alan Baines mentioned that they have one conflict PD in Twin Falls County. I'm like, how can that be?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and, you know, I'm not saying that the local PDs are doing anything wrong, it's just.
How are they handled?
Yeah, I don't have much information really.
I know that they have been talking to me about it, I don't know where, that they, I should listen to that. He said that they had a county-run in-house conflict
It is county.
office, which is interesting to me. I never even thought about that, but that would be something that would be of interest. And it may be helpful because it probably, if it is an in-house county-run office, then I guess it might show greater interest by attorneys rather than having just a contract that they cover their own overhead and that sort of stuff. But I thought that was an interesting concept that I think it had some more investigation and discussion.
When the conflicts come in, so like the PD comes in and they say, they appear in court and say, hey, we got a conflict, we need an attorney. And the judge says, okay, yep, we're gonna do that.
Right.
Is there any way to balance the caseload for some, because that's one of the complaints of some of these conflicts is the one group, they just got nailed with a bunch of them. And what's the standard? How many are they looking at getting? Because the contract amount, you know, we have a specific amount that we say, hey, we'll pay you, you know, $5,000 a month, and that's great for 10 cases, but when you're up to 30 or 40 that got dumped on you in 1 month, and that's not, and they don't have the time, and a couple of attorneys that we've talked to feel that they don't have the ability to provide a good and adequate defense then.
I wish I had a better answer for you other than claiming the because I think that's so Terry can answer pretty easily for you, and I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's just, and that's just what we're, you know, how do we balance that? That's kind of, can we, again, when they go back to, I'm not saying that it's happened or is happened or could happen maybe. Is it just, then they have to go to court, they have to fill out something that says, hey, we're gonna do a conflict on this to help us track it better, or, I don't wanna say regulate, but some way to help balance that load.
Is it my understanding that, when that conflict comes, then it's not Dave's office that assigns the conflict, that's what it is.
I think it's actually Carrie's office or the court, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that they just put it on the rotating wheel, and whoever came up next got that next conflict.
Well, and maybe that might be it, that the wheel's spinning so fast that, you know, all of a sudden you get a bunch of conflicts and the PD is not taking them, but it's going here, and all of a sudden we overload this contract amount.
Like, we've had a couple of them quit here lately.
Right.
And then we hired a new group.
Right.
They assumed the responsibilities for like 30 cases
Which is,
that somebody else had already got paid for.
right, I don't like that idea.
And so talking with Carrie, we've talked about, well, is there something in our contracts with them that we can say, no, if you've been paid for that case, you have to see it out?
I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that. Steve, and that might be something the office needs to look at. But contractually, I think you can contract with them. If they've agreed to take the case, then it's their case until it's finished. I don't see anything that says you couldn't or shouldn't do that.
The other one kind of is, and I'll just be careful of this because I don't want you to have to answer something that might prejudice you we've always had kind of this, and there's been some pushback of,
because the prosecutor is technically the attorney of the board. That's how state law is written.
Right.
But we've had some that are like, well, the prosecutor's office should never even touch this, shouldn't even be in the room, shouldn't be anywhere. And they want us to like hire our own conflict counsel for this counsel, and I think that's getting to insanity maybe. And so is there things that maybe we should, I mean, what's kind of the guidance for, because that's been the conversation me and Matt had several times on that.
Well, go ahead, Steve, what would be your thoughts?
You know, I think the Public Defense Commission, that's been an issue that's been raised. You know, I don't know a lot about the Public Defense Commission, but I do know, I mean, from the practical standpoint, that it'd be difficult to just retain counsel for any time when the public defenders have something before the court. And I think it would really, I haven't heard of any other counties that are doing that. And I think as long as we're aware, there are certain things I'm probably not comfortable, you know, providing advice to the board on.
Right.
But generally, I think that we can do it, and we can do it in a fair and impartial way. So I think, you know, from my position, until there's something right in front of us, you know, that's been raised as a problem, challenging that arrangement, that we'll continue doing what we do now.
I don't think you should do anything different than that. I've not ever heard of having counsel appointed to deal with the public defender's office in giving you all legal advice. These attorneys will so that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, you know, it would be poor judgment on my part to give advice that was antagonistic to another department.
And I'm not sure what the public defender's office would need to talk to you about that would have any issues with confidentiality or an issue that would compromise having Steve as your attorney. And maybe Dave has some idea, but I don't right off the top of my head. I can't think of anything. And I agree with you, Steve, I was a county attorney too, many years ago, and there was never an issue with regard to that representation. The county attorney represents the county.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where we're at. But your concern, and I wanted to make sure I understand it, is that conflicts are becoming to the point where we're overloading the system as far as the conflict attorneys that we have. And I think that is something I need to examine with Carrie and making sure that, and you're right, maybe we're realistic too fast, so fast that we can't keep up. I don't know. But I can talk with Carrie and look at that from the office standpoint. I don't know what all we can do about that, especially if it's just a number of things. As far as negotiating and working with potential conflict attorneys, I mean, I get it. I understand you kind of feel like you're a little bit out of your comfort zone with all of that. This may be something we can do about that as far as at least have a working group that works with applicants that gives advice to the commissioners.
I like that idea.
I don't know if that's something, or if it's creating more bureaucracy that we don't want.
Well, and the other thing too that goes with that in that working group is wages-wise when it comes to lawyers.
Right.
We might have a different opinion of what your time's worth than what you think your time's worth, but I don't know how much time is worth to have a good defense and not cost us more money in the long run and cause problems for people and violate rights.
And I literally haven't practiced law in almost 20 years, so I don't know either. And that's why I think it's always beneficial to have an attorney from outside, a private attorney, someone who does work in the criminal defense field, who gives you an honest answer with regard to what they think a wage or an honest or appropriate contractual agreement should be. I'd sit here right now and tell you, sounds good to me. I would have to go back 20 years, and I know that that wouldn't be satisfactory to anybody. And so,
We'd like it, but.
yeah, but I just don't see that.
Yeah.
So that's I'm not a good person to
I like your
talk about
idea,
that.
I really do. Shanda?
Can we talk about a few not names, positions that would be good on that working group committee? That we can have a good variety of people invited to participate in that discussion?
Before we go there, I just, a couple of questions. Right now, we have an attorney that is done at the end of this month. So I guess that's where we talk with Carrie and see if our load, do we need to maintain the number of conflict attorneys that we currently have? And then if we do, then this group looks over applicants and gives us a recommendation is what I'm seeing, and kind of a direction. But are we only missing one at this time?
As far as I know.
I think, well, okay.
And part of the conversation too is instead of maybe one single attorney, an actual firm. You know, some of the law practices have had interest or so, but it's understanding the contractual rates and what that would be or how that would work. That's, I think, part of where a working group like this would help maybe put that together.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some firms in town that might be interested in taking on conflict. I don't know. Obviously, Riker and Maddox took on one of the conflicts.
Yes.
And so we've got them, and who else do we have now? We've gone through so fast.
Those two, Craig Parrish.
Spit it out, Sarah.
Come on.
I'm trying to remember.
Eldridge.
Bob Eldridge.
Yeah.
Mary Shea.
Yeah.
I think so.
And Brad Wallace, I think.
And Broadway.
So I guess that's part of my question is,
I mean, at this point in time, I obviously, I don't know that, I don't want to speak for Terry, but I don't know that we can, I think we need to replace Tony with somebody. I think that's a smart thing to do, because you just never know what kinds of things are coming down, and to keep the lid kind of more even.
One of the things on fees and pay, and so I look at, you know, and this is something I don't understand is that apparently the Public Defense Commission or the principles of judicial canon or how, I don't know the specific rule, but you're not supposed to pay by lawyers by the hour for public defense. And that actually makes it one of the hardest things.
that's what Bingham County does.
And some counties reportedly say they do. And can we get some guidance on that? Because that would really help in some of the payment of how do we do this?
And that's, I guess I'm going to leave that to Steve because I don't know the answer to that question. As a former public defender, we always did it on a contract basis. And, you know, some months you made money, sometimes some months you lost money. But you negotiated what you thought was a fair amount for that particular kind of work. The hourly stuff, when you start getting into just doing it by an hourly rate, I worry about, are we going to have to do some auditing? How do you accurately depict the hours of time that are spent by an attorney? I mean, that becomes kind of a tricky question in my mind.
And I can't remember, I know Brad and Bob represented El Romero, I believe, for a while.
Right.
And I think that was an hourly thing.
And that's the only one that I ever negotiated in my contracts is when first degree murder or capital cases, it would be done on an hourly basis. But they would have to submit monthly billable hour sheets. I mean, they have to keep track of the hours, and they have to be subject to being audited with regard to that. But that's the other thing, is that you're gonna get that, and I'm gonna get that, I'm gonna look at it and go, looks like that's what they said, that was appropriate. Do we all really know? I mean, that's a problematic in my mind with regard to the hourly work. So I don't know how Bingham County does it, why they're successful with it.
Because I know there's just some attorneys that have said in the past that they wouldn't want to be like a full contract, but they would have an hourly rate negotiated that if they came to where you needed another case kicked out, that they would maybe pick it up or, do something like that. And so that's one thing I've always thought about is maybe we have some of these people that don't want a full contract, like, and load like some of these people do, but they would take, 2 or 3 cases a month.
And that would be a great idea for that the group that we kind of talked about. Maybe that's what they need to look at. Is this is something that we want to do? There might be room for that for attorneys that don't want to take on much, but they're willing to take on a case or two on a ongoing basis. Public Defense Commission, I don't know much with regard to them and what their requirements are. I've kind of gotten that impression that they want to move away from the hourly contracts and just do flat contract, flat pay for so many cases. If I understand it correctly.
Shanda, I'm sorry, we'll go back to your question. On that board, or on this group, suggestions on, like, do we go 3 or 4, how many people, and suggestion on who would be on that?
I honestly think you probably ought to look at least one attorney and private attorney in town, and then it might not be a bad idea to include a judge or a district or magistrate on that.
What about having like the representative from like the PD's office and the prosecutor's office? I mean, because
It's not a bad idea. I think that's a very good idea to do that. We have that representation. I mean, we wouldn't want to make the group too big.
Yeah.
Say keep it less than 5. And whether or not you want to have a judge on there, I don't know what input they're going to give. But I agree. I think someone from the prosecutor's office, PD's office, private counsel, maybe even
either like
maybe someone from the business community, business person.
maybe like a judge or like Carrie, one of the two. I don't know because like I think a judge would have very good insight, especially lawyers or people that have practiced. But the judge would know the temperament of the lawyer or maybe the workload or just
Certainly with regard to the applications, I mean, I think the trial court administrator or a designee for the courts, that would be a judge or Carrie, that's not a bad idea. I think that's a good idea too. But like I said, I'm not sure you want to make it too much bigger than that.
Yeah, but that's like myself, I don't want it bigger than 5.
Yeah.
5's getting to the limits in my opinion.
But I think that at least they will give you some good information and give you some good recommendations. Because I think, I would agree with you, if I were sitting in your shoes, I feel like a fish out of water. I wouldn't know. I mean, I'm a judge, I don't know what you should pay an attorney to do public defender work. I don't know what their value is. That's just where I'm at. I have no idea. I mean, I maybe have a sense, but I'm in no better position than you are. I have an idea about the different attorneys in town, I suppose, and work ethic and that sort of thing, so maybe that would be beneficial.
But I'm sure that Brian
Yeah.
can step right in and do it. I mean, like Matt was doing it, but we just felt like right now is a good time to talk about it because we kind of all feel a little bit like a fish out of water.
It really is, and I think you have to, I think having your prosecutor, your elected, your county attorney, on those discussions, and you feel, I think you're gonna have a bit of comfort level with that too, in your recommendations. You know that someone has been representing the county and looking at that, so I think that's a good idea. Clearly, those are really good thoughts.
Shanda, any other questions, concerns?
So my last one is that the current contract will be up on June 30th of this month, and then our We have one the letter of interest so far. That is coming up really quick. Can we let that go vacant for a little bit? Do we need to move forward with the contract and look at what that's gonna look like?
I think if you could put that committee together fairly quick and have them review the individual and kind of what the initial pay of the contract is and do that, I think you could do that fairly quickly if people were willing to come together on it. And like I said, the big thing is and this is what I always get really, the fish out of water is when we start talking about misdemeanors, felonies, juvenile work, some of these very specific legal proceedings, which unless you're a lawyer, we have no idea just how much work it is. I mean, that's just how it is to it.
And you're just simply looking to replace the felony conflict.
Mr. Bud,
Yeah.
that, I was unsure if that was it, but yes,
Yeah.
that's the one that will be done.
So, good question.
At the end of this month.
Yes.
Actually, he was already due, and he said that he would extend to the end of this month. This is what is my concern, is his caseload, and then we hire somebody else, and now we're negotiating, $15,000 or $16,000 on the other group, because they picked up somebody else's caseload that already got paid for, and we can do the same here.
Right, and that's my question. Can you, if he wants to extend, or is there room for negotiation to say, okay, no new cases, but you've got to finish cases that you were assigned? I mean, I know, as far as I'm concerned, the judges would very much appreciate that, because you throw someone new into the scene again, and then you throw on top of the fact that we've been operating at a very slow pace, just trying to get caught up again. And then you have new counsel that has to get up to speed with someone. It's really problematic. It would be better to have them hold on to those cases and finish them out, and then just not assign new ones, and then negotiate with new counsel to take on new assignments. I think that's
I think that needs to be in the contract from now on.
I
That's
think that's
whoever the new one is, that's gotta
And
be.
honestly, I would rely on your office to kind of talk to him about that. Just what the judge just said about, will you continue on, and even if we're paying to finish out your cases, and then we get this group together and then look at the applications of other people, but that's kind of what Matt was doing for us, and we can still follow that right now, because we're not ready to just.
I think that's a great idea. If you all can try and negotiate that, particularly from this point forward, I think that's better for the courts and better for you all.
Well, and I think the thing would be is if Budge's caseload, I don't know what his caseload is, you'd call that 100%, and you'd have to negotiate it down on like a percentage base that, okay, because he might have cases that might run the next 6 months, and we can't pay him the full contract monthly amount for the full, or 2 or 3 months, however that is. We can pay you a percentage of what your current caseload is as it's degraded down, because we don't have a budgetary line item or spending authority we can't have 2 full contracts in that one slot.
And what I would say, Steve, is that if you talk to Tony about this, is that with the felonies, it's just sentencing. His commitment is to represent that person to the sentencing, and then if there is a request to appeal, that he at least file the appeal, and then that will be his representation. Because there has to be, because you don't want it to go on, like you said, forever. If you're doing a probation violation and all that, there needs to be a cutoff, and I think that's the natural cutoff in the cases of disposition by sentencing, or if there is a case that there's some probation violations, pending, once they get the disposition, something like that, where there's a good place where you can say, okay, that's your commitment is done. If you do want to transition out, he wants to transition out, or just keep dumping it on the here you go.
Now I'm paying twice.
So, what I would ask is, Shanda, if you'll kind of keep with Steve and kind of see where we go with Mr. Budge and that direction, and if you'd work with Carrie,
Yeah, I will.
and let's talk about this group and how we put it together.
Yeah, I'll do that.
We do that.
I'm available if you need, have any other questions, but I think Carrie honestly probably is the expert on this.
Yeah.
Maybe your questions are actually.
Hopefully he's back soon.
Well,
Tell him to stay away from the
probably
mountain
gonna be
bike.
stuck with me for a little bit.
Oh, that's okay.
Hey,
So,
That's okay,
you know,
good.
and I'll do the best that I can, and if I try not to bother him too much, but if you need some answers, like that, I'm happy to do what I can.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I think we have a direction anyway.
Okay, that's great. Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
All right. We'll get this fixed.
All right, Kyle. And I got a question.
Uh-oh.
You all have been invited for what discussion?
We found out with the landfill deed,
Okay,
we have some questions that we can.
okay. No, it's great.
You're sitting there and we're like, what are you doing here?
I'm looking at what's on our list and I'm going,
What are you?
I know.
I mean, if you want to sit here, that's fine, but, you know.
People a little bit kind of funny to listen to me talk at these, so they're starting to crowd me.
and we are live.
So you might become a mem.
We're gonna start
Oh.
selling tickets.
Want to come up, Shanda, we can commission, we'll start with, recommending, our, bid, we did a bid for the cell 4 landfill expansion, earthwork on the 15th. We took that back. Our engineering firm, Great West, has been reviewing it. I've reviewed it with them. We had 10 people bid. There was quite a difference in the bids. The engineer's cost estimate was 4.2 million. Our lowest bid came in at 2.8. So, so we had MK Whedon come in with a bid of $2,865,000 to do the cell 4 phase 2 expansion earthwork. And I'm recommending that we go with them. Everything we checked out, they look like they're plenty capable of doing the project and to do it in timely fashion.
Shanda, do you concur with that?
Yes. And there is a letter in your packet from Great Western as far as the award, if you agree with the recommendation. There's something to be signed from them, as well as we have letters notifying everybody that put in bids for that, if you accept the recommendation.
Okay.
And then just to make sure I understand the process, we award them the contract and you go in and do the final negotiation of exactly how you're moving stuff around and what you're doing, or was that already in the bid proposal so they know exactly what's going on?
We have, yeah, it's all in there. So what's gonna happen is once we get your approval on this, we send that notice out to everybody, to the contractors that are gonna do the work. Then they have to get all their paperwork together for insurance and all the different things they have to have signed. They'll sign that and get that back to us that they're agreeing to it. And then we'll have the notice to proceed will be our next step that we'll bring before the commission.
Since this was an invitation to bid, right, we spell out exactly what we need, we know exactly what it is, and then they give us a dollar amount for that. So while the final contract notice to proceed will come before the board, it's not negotiating.
I was just kind of comparing that to the jail where we kind of put out the bid and then we came back and made some revisions and things like that based on some options. That's what I was just asking.
Right, yep, and on that one, a request for proposal, right, which has a lot more room for us to say, this is a concept, right? You tell us, because you're subject matter expert, right? You tell us what we need and how much it's going to cost to do it. For this one, we had the engineers already on board, right? We were able to tell them exactly what we needed and they gave us the dollar amount.
Okay, great.
Right. Yes,
Motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept recommendation and award Great West the bid for the landfill contract as presented and authorize signature on the letter. With that,
And,
oh,
not Great West, MK Weed.
why does it say Great
Okay.
West on there?
Sorry, Great West is the engineer that we currently have on contract.
Oh, okay.
MK Weed.
Sorry, I was looking at that.
Oh.
MK Weed, excuse me, thank you.
Okay. The signatures on Great West.
So that is their documentation as far as being the engineer, in their packet information. And then we have Bannock County standard letters that if it is voted on to approve.
This isn't what I need to sign at this time.
Sorry, yes, you'll need to sign that to submit to Great Western as part of their packet information. And then the signings would go out to everybody that put in.
All right.
Do I need to amend that to fill those two signatures?
Are you clear?
Not really.
You're good?
Nancy is.
Nancy's clear, okay.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thanks, Nancy.
I don't have a suit on today, so I have a construction pencil in my pocket.
As far as notifications go, commissioners, so we'll go out in the mail today, and then Kyle will work in hand with Great Western to be able to move forward to get the notice of, what's it called? To proceed, notice to proceed. Do you need a copy of the letter that they're sending to Great Western, or do you want me to email it to you?
There's 10 bids.
10 bids.
I didn't think my pencil here would have worked very well on that.
Do you want this one also?
Yes, I can take that one for Kyle. Thank you.
Call around and fix the sprinklers today.
Seems that you have to split into 2 years.
You sure you don't need to do a $50,000 study on how to do landfill fees?
I just want to check, is your math good?
You know the correct response to that, right? Whenever anybody says that, here's a pencil, and I got a calculator for you if you want to prove me wrong.
Well, yeah.
Just saying.
That's a polite response back.
So as I handed, or what was in your packet for the landfill fees, but first off, thanks Jen and Nita for coming. I asked them to come today because of the special assessment on the parcels. I was talking with Christie over what we could do split-wise, or if we could handle doing less than what we originally were talking about. And so while I was in there discussing that with her, she said that it might be good to invite these 2 young ladies here today in case there's some questions with the assessment. So starting out with the assessment, that will, the commercial properties would be going from 80 to 150 per parcel, and residential from 40 to 50.
So can I ask a question? I am looking for some advice on how we always have taxpayers ask us, what's that $40 for? So do you have a recommendation of what we can tell them?
What do you use the $40 for?
Yeah, what is it for? Because then they're like, well, I pay for garbage. Yeah, we understand that. Well, I have to pay if I go to the dump. Yeah, we understand that. So when I started here, I was told to say that the federal government required a liner be put in the ground many years ago, and that's how it was financed.
Could have been.
Could have been.
Could have been.
But
It's general fund money. Well, it's not general. It's enterprise fund money.
so
It funds the landfill.
It funds the,
What it really kind of does is it helps, it's gonna help keep your cost at the scale house lower too. I mean, you're gonna pay at one place or the other, but it's for that extra cost of building the landfill. I don't know if they had, when they came up with this amount in the beginning, if that was exactly for what that
Yeah.
liner would cost.
This is for operations and capital improvements to landfill.
that's right there.
operation of capital.
No, operations and
And
capital
capital.
improvements.
And capital improvement.
Such as capital improvements is your liner, your cell expansion.
That's cell we just approved.
Yep, that's what we just spent a lot of money on.
Okay.
Yep, remediation to clean up the mess. That's what that is.
So basically,
Runs landfill.
okay.
Provide free dump days.
So, I have a question too, and it's probably gonna be a little more complicated. Where you have, per parcel, so I have a question there, because we are having more and more subdivisions come in and they're putting four fourplexes on one parcel, and then there's other subdivisions that are putting four, and I'm just using fourplexes as an example, but then they're putting four fourplexes on individual parcels also, and we have both those. So you could have an owner that's got four fourplexes on this one parcel, and then you got another owner that's got four fourplexes on individual parcels. You see what I'm asking?
So the problem is do we regulate dwellings?
Yeah,
So we don't regulate dwellings. We can put four fourplexes
okay, so.
on one parcel, I believe. I think if you go more than that, it has to be zoned commercial.
Okay,
So if it's zoned commercial, it would be a $150 fee, and that's a commercial fee. So if you had an apartment complex on a 5-acre thing, and they have a big dumpster, it's a $150 fee plus their dumping fees, right?
And
it's
that's
a-
fine, I just
yeah.
wanted to get that clarified.
that's a good-
so-
Yeah, and it's a good point to watch for, because that's something that if you have four fourplexes,
Isn't that a commercial?
well,
They're totally
it doesn't have to be, it's not considered a commercial property.
Well,
That's actually considered a residential property.
What's the
Fourplex.
breakoff between?
Or no, it's a threeplex, it's a
triplex.
triplex is a residential, fourplex is a commercial.
Commercial,
So
yeah.
it would actually kick as a commercial property.
That's what I'm
And they
thinking.
would only get, the guy with the four on one parcel would still just get the 150 and then, okay,
Yeah.
and that's fine, that's great, we just need to, I just wanted to.
But if you had a triplex,
Yeah.
Right, the triplex.
you'd only be
It's that-
$80.
it's the kicker.
Yep, that's the thing, because that's
Now,
where we
say that
regulate it
again.
at.
If
Right.
it's a triplex,
It would be 80.
it would be 80.
Which, that's, yeah.
Okay.
Well, no,
50.
50.
50, right, because it's a resident.
Yeah, 40 goes to 50,
Right.
yeah, and it was
Okay.
80 that goes to 150, yeah.
That's perfect. And we're trying to work with the state to figure out how we're gonna change things in the system, but we'll get it done.
Okay.
we're good if you're
We are
good.
good.
Okay, we'll move into more of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming. So what I was looking at on here is that for the increase, we're looking at meeting with just going with Bannock County residents and with Bingham County not coming anymore.
Have they submitted your letter?
They have not said anything. I watched their last talk. It didn't look like they were that as far along as I thought they were. They still had like 3 options.
I think we still need to put it in the budget or in the line
Yep.
and,
This
and,
is the worst case scenario then.
well, and submit it to them and then have them submit one
They have to tell us.
denying
they're
us
denying.
Oh,
instead of
okay.
us just
And get it
deleting
in.
the line.
Okay. Yeah. We need to have it and say, this is what it is. And if they don't wanna do that, they can go to seven counties landfill over there, and it's gonna be more expensive than what we are. So have fun.
So Kyle, just for the record benefit and for those wondering why we didn't do a study on this, would you walk us through our process for how you came to these numbers?
So, I've worked with Lexi, I've worked with auditing with Christy, I've worked with Jeff on this. We came up to get that landfill costed disposal that I came up with. We have a new cell that we're putting in. It's engineered at $14,629,000 for that 18 years of life expectancy. We just broke that into a cost per ton of $520. So we got that. We did a 10-year, an 18-year, 5-year average for operating costs and for our tons per year. Then we finally just went with a 5-year. It changed a few things with your operating, but not a lot. So we have that cost that's going to be, for the 18 years, what that would kind of average out to. But no, sorry, we had that at 5 years. We got that cost. We also added the $2 million per year. I tried to keep it at a 5 because our engineers were talking about our remediation being at least a 5-year thing. So I knew pretty well that we're going to have that $2 million for these 5 years. We also added $750,000 per year that's going towards closure, which could be up to $6 million in the next.
Thought we were gonna leave it open and put one load of waste in there a year for the next 6 years.
It's still open. Every blue truck or pink car, I don't know, whichever works best. And then we have what that $750 per year also helps out with is the closure cost of cell 4. In them 18 years, that's $11 million, but that works out to what we were needing to cover them two costs. It comes down to what all that comes down to by the tonnage, the average tonnage that we'll receive, and our operating costs with the remediation and closure and expansion. We're looking at $52.33 with our parcel fees. That would drop it down to $41. The sheet I gave you today is the 41 is about a $12 increase in just Bannock County. This is all going without Bingham County. So I'll have both, and we have a little while till we need to do this resolution, so I'll get more information from Bingham, but.
We just need to submit a letter to them saying this is what your fees would be for the coming year.
Okay.
And then have them reject that, so we have that on file. Otherwise, if we don't submit them something, they're still believing that our contract is.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yep.
The other fees on here, there's
residential or size refrigeration units from commercial businesses. That line's blank now.
So I just wanted to clean that up, that it's just all refrigeration units.
Okay.
Because that's always been kind of a problem or a concern with our scale house and our employees up there is, what's a residential? I think at one point in time, they were thinking if it was some huge commercial, you know, you got residential and then you'd have this big commercial, but in the years that I've been there, we have never seen something like that come in there. And if it did, it's pretty much the same process to drain it, and then we sell the metal anyway, so, you know, I just figured just to have one be there instead of a couple dollars difference for the other one. The out of county, that was one thing, I'd like to go with the $65. If we do go with Bingham County, they had asked if that could be a little higher than that, because that was gonna be really close to what they were charging. So there was the worry that if we were charging the same as what they had to charge to send it here, that some people in between would be coming just directly to us instead of utilizing them, and so that's hard to set their budget knowing whether or not they're coming to them or not. So on the one that has Bingham County, I have $70 as a out of county and 65 if we're not worried about it. Because 65 is more of the norm in all the counties around here.
Okay.
Other prices on there, I just made sure that the asbestos was the, represented the out of county. So there was a little change there from 150 to 165 since the out of county is 165 or 65. Tires, we've looked at tires. We're really, what I tried to do on a lot of these is just that we maybe make a little bit over, but we're pretty much not making a huge profit off of these. I'd like to make a little bit on each one so that they're all together can help support the landfill. But
we're still paying wages and
yes,
machinery, and I mean, if you sell that tire for $4 or whatever, they charge you that, you still got to make something to recoup.
So we just pretty much were just barely even, or a little bit above even last year. So I raised them $1 through the tires. I think that is a safe, number to not, with the cost going up and stuff. I think we'd be pretty good there. I skipped over compost. We ran a report on compost for the last 3 years. We've made money, we've came out even, and we've lost some money. My suggestion on there is a $5 increase. For last year, it shows that just to break even, we would have needed a $6.50 increase. But that was our year that we were upside down.
Okay, that's not showing though. You're $35 on both sides.
That's for what we.
Up higher.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry,
I
skipped over it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we are charging $10 currently, and I'd like to go to $15.
Oh, okay.
I didn't change the price on selling it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I looked at the same thing. What's he talking about?
I'm skipping a little over through there, sorry. That's where we kind of come up with that. Landfill fees, for McCammon. That's another thing that the county does, that's try to help residents, I guess, because it's not a money-making thing either. So we ran FY20 revenue and expenses for McCannon's transfer station. Our total revenue was $21,350. Our total cost was $58,755. So like a $38,000 cost. with McCammon. I think the transfer station's a good thing if the population got bigger there, that's when you need the transfer station in there, but right now, it's always been a thing in the past that the commission before had wanted to have something for that south end. I raised the prices to make up for that, but that's around $5 increase in every one of their costs. And I hope that we could break even on that. That would get us closer to breaking even. In the past, like I say, it's just always been that we haven't did a lot there. It's never made money, or it's never even broke even, but I'm just trying to get it to at least break even.
Tell me how the transfer station works. Somebody from McCammon takes their garbage to that landfill, and they load it up and bring it to...
So there is a landfill and a transfer station. So if it's landfill products, and that's what I added to this one too, so we could still have, that's what the C and D section is.
Construction debris.
Yeah, construction debris, we can put it at the landfill there. And so I let them stay at a little bit lower rate because it's the less of a cost for us. But normally, everything that goes there, we have 6 dumpsters in a Z-wall there. They dump it in this dumpster throughout that day, then we haul it the next day to Pocatello.
Okay.
So what they're paying is the rate, what we're charging at Pocatello, plus what we're figuring it's costing us for the haul.
So do we have somebody down there manning those dumpsters to collect
That
the
day
fees?
that it's open. So in the summer, it's only open on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and in the winter, it's open only on Saturdays.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Growing up down there, I was used to just going to the dump, so I was aware of the...
At one point in time, way back, they used to have a dumpster that they would put all over the county. Ernie might remember some of them. They kind of had them strategically placed around the county until a lot of us farmers and stuff were just dumping whatever we wanted in there. And so they had to figure out a way to monitor it.
These tires that we don't accept.
That's it.
We accept a lot of them.
That's why, huh?
And the hard part too on the transfer station is the balance between breaking even the cost and not encouraging people just to go dump at the canyon somewhere.
Right.
And that's really because then the incurred cost of cleanup and other things, especially if there's, you just get a nasty, people, it's amazing what people will do over $5. Well, I'm not gonna drive there, I'll just go dump it over here. Well, really?
And that's very good. That's what we do. There's a little bit of difference in all these for like the money wise. Compost is recycling. So you got recycling, you're saving airspace also. So there's kind of a value there as well as breaking.
You know, we should put a gas capture system on it if we're really trying to burn it, because, that's what those recyclables there, really, just saying. All right,
But that's where I came up with that. I will have this one and the one that you had seen with Bingham County that we discussed last time. I have that one, and then this one without Bannock, or Bingham. I will write up a letter for Bingham and get an answer there, so we'll have, when we get ready for that.
So my question, we already have to do a public hearing.
That's what I was gonna ask too.
And does it make any difference because we're above the 3%?
no, just put both of them on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the departments are supposed to be getting their updated fees, and then they'll all be here together at the public hearing. That is set, well, I can't remember the date, but the fee is set. And then adopt them all. I think it's like July 30.
Yeah, it's the end of July, and then in August is the first and second postings of it.
So we'll public notice of the public hearing. Then we'll have the actual hearing, and then, we'll accept it, and we'll publish it.
Then Kyle, you're talking the increase, you're proposing to break the increase up into 2 years, at $12, $6 this year.
Yeah,
$6 next.
and that's what I was, looking for guidance on is, it's been, brought up to me that maybe we could soften this jump and break it into 2 years. So I visited with Christie on that. With the monies that we had in expansion for this year and next year, we'll have some returning to a reserve, and she and I felt good with, we're gonna, if we go with the $6 for next year, we will still be in the red around $1 million. But we will have that in reserves to make up.
I think that's consistent with what we've done with like the sheriff's contracts and things
Yep.
like that. So.
Just start. And then for the next year with the other half, we'll see with Bingham's back. Who knows? But I mean, then I was looking at them for FY23, we'd need to do another $6.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay, thank you for your work on this.
So that hearing is actually, the public hearing is August 31st.
Okay. August 31st?
So there was one other question with noxious weeds, with the bill for that. I know we kind of went back and forth on, do we spray private?
No.
So right now we're not. I had set it up that on that sheet that we kind of put the cost share stuff, but we've never really looked at what, if we did it, what our cost would be. I tried to be a little bit above what any contractor would be, but just barely, so we weren't the lowest guy out there. Not necessarily saying if we have this in there, that means we're going around spraying all the private, but if we have it there in case there's a situation that we would need to.
I have had contractors come to me and say that our previous director stood up in a class, a meeting, and bragged about how much cheaper he could spray on personal property than they could. We cannot do that.
So we're still leaving that open to where last case scenario, emergency, or we have to go in, we would have something set up to charge them a fair amount for, but not that I'm asking the commission to, that we're to go back into private spraying or.
No, we need that anyway, because if we say, if you're not gonna do it, we're forced to come in and do it because of the law, this is what you're gonna be charged.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm good with that as well.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Stephen? So Stephen Freiberger from Paragon, I've asked him to come and help speak today about the landfill renewable energy credits. He knows a lot more. He's been working with some of the counties that are doing these things. To kind of give you a little information on what's been going on, what he's, kind of some of his feelings are, and to try to get a little bit of direction which way we would like to move forward before this opportunity is gone.
Okay.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. About 2-3 months ago, we were approached at Southern Idaho Solid Waste, because I do their landfill gas station project as well. And we got approached and we got presented an agreement and got an offer for $12.50 per rec. A rec is 1,000 megawatts, or a megawatt hour. And we looked into it, and they started through the process, and at the same time, we said we got another client that may be interested, so they provided us a draft agreement that I believe Kyle showed you, and we had the prosecuting attorney's office look at it. And there is a little bit of difference between the waste district code and what they're allowed to do and what the county's allowed to do and how they do different things. So when we presented this to the prosecuting attorney's office, they said that they weren't sure that we could just enter into an agreement or whether we had to go through the sale of property. And we also have another client that's looking into this, and they are saying that under Title 31, Chapter 44, there's an exemption for solid waste activities that you don't necessarily have to go through the auction or bidding process on certain things. The prosecuting attorney's office said they had to go through the property section of county code to see how we dispose of these wrecks, because they're considering them, I believe he said that was considered personal property. So we have an agreement here that we're trying to say whether we can enter into that agreement or if we have to go out for bid, but we haven't gotten any guidance from the prosecuting attorney's office on how we would bid that out if we have to bid that out.
And that's our prosecuting attorney?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I have a question for you. So when you say a rec, you're talking renewable
energy credit.
And are they using the California Cap and Trade program that's moving through the California-Quebec settlement agreements?
I don't know the specifics of it, as far as to that detail. What I understand that they're doing with these wrecks is there is a process where they can take a wreck and turn it into a registered ID number, which is what they use for renewable natural gas.
Yep.
And they convert that, and the electric car people then can use that to do whatever they do with the carbon credits or whatever. So it's a conversion process.
So I'm looking at the auction right now. Auction results for May. Auction credits were for a ton of carbon, which a rec is calculated a little bit different. It ranges from $17.71 per ton of carbon captured to $21.34. So that's so where we're burning gas.
Okay, so the recs, we did some research on recs, and if you look at the April recs, they range from 25 cents to about $1 for a rec.
Okay, so they're burning. So that's going to be probably an order of magnitude then is what they're looking at. So like as a ton, it's probably less than a ton, because a megawatt probably puts out far less than a ton.
Yes, that is correct.
So a ton, yeah, so if you're at 25 cents and right now you're looking at your auction house, I would say, to tell you the truth, why do we need to use this intermediary company? Instead of going directly to the California Cap Trade Program and Quebec Cap Trade Program Assistance Summary and how to file for it and file their stuff. That would just be my question.
Well, because looking at the place where you would regularly sell it, currently you would get, for selling the recs, you would get 25 to 75 cents, and maybe on an outside for $1. These guys are offered as $12.50 for the recs, and they convert them to RINs. They go through all the paperwork and get all the certifications done. And then they'll put a markup on them to sell them to the people that need the RINs. I understand that one of the concerns you have is we don't put it out, could we get more than $12.50?
Oh no, I was just more so saying, because this is a bid house, this is an auction clearing house, so this actually fulfills our obligation under property. Then we don't have to worry about it. That actually fulfills that. It's like taking it to prime time. This is an auction clearing house that does this for the California Air Resource Board, and so we would just file with them and put it into the board auction, and then we don't have to deal with it. And that.
So, and this is like per ton of carbon, is that what?
Yeah, that's.
What is the website?
This is the California Air Resource Board. This is actually where Simplot sells theirs. I reached out to Simplot Corporation and asked a friend, and they sent me this link, and this is
where they do it. And so, yeah. So for the record, I'm looking at the California Air Resource Board. Their website is www.arb.ca.gov. And this is just it shows their auction prices, their last month's reports, and their filing notice for the upcoming auction, joint auction to be held August 18th. Since the last auction was just held, number 27 was May 19th, 2021. And so I don't know if all of this goes on, but this is where Simplot Corporation sells theirs. And so I don't know, would it benefit us then to just take it directly there instead of having an intermediary company involved in it? I don't know, but this is an auction, so we wouldn't have to deal with the whole legal question.
Okay, well, we'll do some more research on that, but everything that we found so far is the price that we got offered through this other outfit was like 10 times what we can get from other places, because you can, there's also a place where you can take wrecks and sell them direct, and that was what we had found was the better. So we'll do some research on that.
So can I just speak to what guidance our office gave them? So I talked to Kyle and Brian and Matt and I discussed it, and looking at the code for the 31-4403, it doesn't, it's for services. This isn't services, so it would fall under real property owned by the county. So then we have to follow section 31808 for the sale of that property, which requires if it's over $250, then it needs to go to auction and it has to be published in the paper about the auction, not less than 10 calendar days prior to the auction. And that's all the requirement is for that. So that's where we are at.
But, so, and I don't know how to read that, but it talks about that it's property acquired through tax deed and
That's
trying
a separate.
to come up with a description, so how do we?
Yeah, that's a separate.
So there's two different kinds of property that addresses. There's like land, property that the county acquired through the tax deed process, and then there's just real property owned by the county. This would fall under that because it's property owned by the county, and it's kind of a weird thing. I don't understand Rex really, but property owned by the county is on property owned by the county, therefore it's property owned by the county. So tax deed is a completely different thing. It's like an actual piece of property that they acquired.
So is there a way that we can do steel bids at the auction, or does it have to be
has
like
to
an
be
auctioneer, or how does that all work?
So it has to be a public auction. So again, it's just like when we dispose of a desk and we take it to, why legal, we have to take it down to prime time. It's published, it goes down. If you want to buy county property, it's there, you can go buy it. It's not like a bid process. I mean, you could do a bid process, but it would be, you would have to have it open. You couldn't let one company come in and do this. You'd actually probably have to do a request for proposal to sell the credits to be the intermediary. That's the other problem you run into, is the service that's being provided that we're going to pay somebody. So how many credits are we talking about? What would be our total value right now, what they currently have?
Okay, with the, it's about 100 at the lowest output that we have, which is one engine at 1.45 megawatts per hour for the year. We're talking $150,000 a year for a 3-year contract. Once you get the other wells on site, it could be as much as $800,000.
So the other part too is this company that's coming to participate, we would actually have to put then, you couldn't enter into a single, that would be like, hey, Kyle, I want to come, I'm going to come do all of your stuff, and I'm over a certain bid amount. It's not a professional service at that time. It'd be a contract. You'd actually have to RFP the person that's wholesaling these, because we're going to pay them a proportion of what we're doing there as well. So this company that might have approached us, that's great, but there'd have to be an RFP or an RFQ that would go out to say, we're putting this out, we're going to sell these credits, we want somebody to act as a wholesaler or intermediary, you would need to do this then. And like I said, I mean, hey, I'm not opposed to this. Anytime the federal government wants to give us some money, that's great. But how do we do this, and where are we doing it at? And I always look at it, if there's an intermediary that says, hey, we want to do this, there's always something that's, you know.
So these are state codes that you're quoting?
Title 31.
Why wouldn't we talk to the legislature? Oh, I mean, that's a slow process, but.
So on this website, how do we offer them on there and do the auction process?
No, this is actually, from what it looks like for the California thing, is you just file and they do it. It would be like us taking our, think about it in a virtual sense. What are we selling? We're not selling any real product. We're selling a number on a piece of paper. We're saying we have captured X amount of tons of carbon that turns into a REC, which is I pulled the renewable energy credit, and so they calculate the price of it, and so that's the whole thing is we're just saying we have a couple serial numbers that we filed because we filed with some people and said our engine produces this, and by us burning off this gas that's not escaping these CO2 or these emissions of greenhouse gas, it's saving this, and by so many megawatt hours that we're doing this, that's what those RECs are for. So we're selling literally a couple serial numbers in virtual land, and they're going to go up and they're going to put it, and you're going to have some company that's going to come in and say, we are exceeding our environmental outputs. We've got to buy in credits. They'll go in and just say, we'll buy this, and they'll say, hey, here we go. This is the price that's going right now. This is where it's at, and take it or leave it.
So how do we post them on there when we're required to do the?
We would still post in our newspaper and say, hey, it's on this website. Go to this website if you want to buy it. But this website is open to any business entity. This is the state of California.gov. So this is California that's doing it. So I'm assuming the regulatory nightmare that's California, but they probably meet most of the stuff. And it says, yeah, and so where I'm monitoring and looking at this, I'm assuming that this is probably going to meet all of those requirements because they have all their publication and auction notice right here. I just pulled their auction notice down, it's coming down right now. And so that's why I say is this document is an auction notice for the California Cap and Trade Program and the Quebec Cap and Trade Program System Joint Auction Greenhouse Gas Allowance issued June 18th, 2021 auction notice. Is the official notification for this, blah, 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 blah. It's the Cap and Trade, deals with detailed auction requirements, instructions, auction examples for the United States and Canada. Concurrencies are managed, how their holdings, limits, bid limits, or fulfillment. And it goes into quite extensive legal stuff that I'm not going to bore everybody with. But what I'm saying is the current auction, how many are offered for sale, how many are required for sale. They're selling 71 million credits at this next auction, is what it looks like. And so
for us to do this, we would just have to post that we're putting them there, and then once we've advertised that, we list them on there. And
maybe again, there's some.
So why do we have? If we send a car out here to the auction, we don't advertise that we're sending it out there. No. It just comes before the commissioners to get rid of that excess equipment.
But it's an approved auction that we have a contract with that we did at one point.
So if you do the same thing here.
Yeah.
So my understanding from what I listening to them talking about is that this is connected with like these credits that are floating in the air, whatever they are connected with a piece of real property that the county owns, the landfill. Therefore, you have to follow that process for that code.
It's just not just it's like if you're growing.
I don't understand these renewable energy credits very well and what it actually is. So what kind of property it is, I don't really know.
Well, and I think that's going to be the problem that this is going forward. It's not a clearly defined thing because I just found 3 different definitions of what they actually would be. Is it a property? Is it a cash monetary unit, or is it something? And that's the whole, it's really how I think that different entities look at it. The state of Idaho probably makes up their own rules half the time.
So it sounds to me like
We need some research.
we need to have some research and then get
Well,
that
and
done.
so there's another wrinkle to this, because there is a way that you can go back for the last 18 to 24 months and certify RECs and put them on the market. So would we have to do the auction process for that?
Once you do it, you're good.
And it looks like it hasn't really, it sounds like from the talking about the other counties and stuff, that the legislator hasn't addressed this type of property.
But once again, nothing that says we can, nothing that says we can't.
I mean, Brian would say no, but.
Yeah, we're a Dillon's
We
rule.
know- we know what
We're Dillon's
Brian
rule,
would say.
well, we're a Dillon's rule state, so if it's not expressed, we can't do it.
And that's why you got to get the prosecuting attorney's office, but you can't take my word as an engineer, because I'm not a lawyer, but whatever the attorney tells you, then you're covered on what you are doing is legal.
So, a little more
Maybe
research
some more.
and more direction, direct
And I have
direction.
a question on that website, where,
I'll send it to
where,
you.
okay, will you send me?
Yes, I'll just send you the
link?
auction event. Yeah.
'Cause I'm not
Can you send that to Kyle?
Yeah, I will.
please?
I'll send it. And like I said, it's just I found it, and a friend of mine that sent it to me, it's like, here, this is where we sell ours. Cool. And so,
And we've done something similar, but everything we found, we weren't able to get the prices that we're seeing on these others. And so I was wondering, I'm very conversant in contract law, because I've worked with lots of prosecutors and counties throughout the state when they do contracts. And in bidding law, if we get a price that we think is too high, the commissioners can make a declaration that they can get a better price on the open market.
Yeah, but
Is that something we
no,
can do here?
because this is again, we're not buying something, we're selling something, and so the regulations of property and the disposal of county property is regulated and enumerated in a different class. It's not the same thing as much as we think it would be. I'm not buying a bunch, like Kyle, when you came in and you want to buy a bunch of paint, salt, and a bunch of other stuff, you have a state bid price, and we can just piggyback onto that. That's fine, because we can do that. Or if we throw in a bid and it's too high, and we say we're gonna rebid, or we're gonna throw them out, or we're gonna do whatever, or we're gonna then sole source, or however we do that, because we're acquiring the property, we're not disposing of it. Once it goes back to the selling of it, that's an entire
But
different section
you're
of
still
law.
trying to get the best price you can. So if we go through some bid process and we're not able to get as good a price, how do we do it?
That's what the state has given us. And we're a Dillon's rule state, so we don't get to change those rules, and we have to play by them. And that's unfortunate, but that's why the legislature has to be responsive to things like this, because if they're not, this is what we're stuck with. So,
This is something,
Yeah.
talking about legislature, I think man-wearing would
probably the
be
best one.
pretty good to jump on something like this, to give
So
it a
and-
clear picture.
Now,
Auction
there is
participation
one other
training.
way that we wanted to float past you, because I mentioned that the code for solid waste district is much more clear. It specifically says that they can sell these things without having to go through this whole auction process. So is there a way that we could sell them to SISW, because there is a provision in the county code to sell things to another government entity?
I would say no, and I would say this is kind of a two-pronged thing for me, and I'll speak from my perspective. I look at this as one, if we are not a district, we are a county. So while they might be another governmental agency, I would not look at the same spirit of the law as intending to sell to a different agency that's not necessarily the same rules. You play that. And we're defeating the rules of the county by trying to circumvent willfully and knowing that that's what our intent is. Two, I would still say, and come back to this, why do I need a middleman to sell my credits? That would be my main
thing is, okay, I have this sitting here. I just pulled the training up on how to file to sell your credits on the open market in California. If I'm getting $17 or $20, and actually I just looked at that, that looks like their price of a rep is $18 at their last auction. And if they're giving us $12, who's getting the other $6? So for me, that's just where, as I look at this, it's kind of like when we had somebody wanting us to sell a railroad crossing. Same thing, it's property. It's because somebody else wanted to benefit off of it. And so I look at it for two things. Why would I sell it to another government agency to make 33% off of what the going rate is? I mean, wow, that's a flipping markup, man. I need to get in that business. Whoever wants to go sell energy credits with me, let's go do this. But there is this, I don't feel that that's very transparent, falls within the purview of the law to just to hand that off. I just don't. I don't think that that's a very. We start doing stuff like that, and then the legislature overreacts, and they freak out, and they come down and they make it even more painful instead of just trying to work it out.
So it looks like we'll go back,
Let's
ask
do
some
some
questions, get our attorneys to give us some definition.
And when did you say that next auction was?
Looks like it's in August.
Oh,
Are you looking at it? Fine.
yeah, what day in August?
August 18th or something like that. It is on August 18th, 2021.
Okay, so worst case, what I would like to come up with is a target date. So if we backdated our 10 days or 2 weeks from that and have a yes or no decision so we can put an ad in the paper so we could make that auction, is that doable from the commissioners? And
I think, yeah,
I'm all for exploring it.
Yeah.
Sarah says yes, we can do that.
So what was the date?
2 weeks before August 18th, so August.
Oh, and then we have to have it, whatever the section of code said on the auctions, we have to have it advertised so many days before.
And we're gonna check into that as well, and why.
Well, see, and I just found on one of their another governmental website that's an actual .gov that lists about a couple other exchanges and how to do this. And maybe this one, in the one in California, you have to have a license or an office in California. That's why Simplot sells their stuff there. There's some others too, and I think that we need to actually, like I said, there needs to be a little bit more information.
Well,
because
and that would be part of the reason that you might need an intermediary is to meet all those requirements.
It very well could be. Other than that, Bannock County might just go file a tax identification number in California and a P.O. box, man, and that's all the intermediary does. I mean, come on, man. But no, I think we need to have a further discussion on it.
There is also a bunch of paperwork that you have to file with EPA and stuff that they take care of. So obviously, I understand that they wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't some margin they would get. It's just getting the county to learn the process and do all of that may take a while.
And I actually think that the intermediary would be more of a stringent bid requirement than selling the credits off. Because you would have to put it out and say, we want to sell our energy credits. We're putting this out for notice because it's a request for proposal then. How much do you want to sell our energy credits for that we have? And this is what our requirements that we generate, and this is what we make. Who would like to sell them at the highest bid? And you might have a company say, hey, we'll give you 14, we'll give you 11, we'll give you 9. So I think that would be, there's a couple different ways to do that. So, all right, I'm good.
Okay.
The meeting.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
You got a call? I got a meeting downstairs with a member of the Bannock County Veterans group. There's an issue.
Okay.
But I totally support the new organizational structure.
So who do we work with you?
Gordon Samuels, I'm deputy, or he's in that number.
Scott is 208 252
You can contact me.
1455.
Okay, so just to clarify, so the 28th is gonna be Monday. And the 18th is a Sunday, August, it's August.
Hello, how are you this fine day? We're good. So we come to your portion of our agenda today. We had a conversation on the org chart yesterday during our budget meeting. Has there been changes or questions, concerns?
No, we talked about it yesterday, the org chart we actually presented yesterday, and my proposal for next fiscal year. What I was coming for today was to see if I could actually implement that sooner. I've checked with auditing, and we have the money in our budget to cover the change if we were able to do that sooner.
And Scott, the only question I had about that was, have we been pretty consistent with our temporary help budget line so that our exposure going forward isn't any different than it has been in the past?
No, so our temporary help budget line has been really inconsistent. That's probably the big problem, is that we just haven't been able to get any sort of stable workforce at all. And so, like I said, we've had a large sum of money in there with anticipation we'd be able to use it, and we just haven't been able to act with it because there's not people in the temporary pool to hire.
That's my question. Let me restate it to make sure that we're on the same page. Have we consistently been, and I'm just going to use a number just as a placeholder, have we consistently been budgeting $20,000 a year for temporary help so that the restructuring will fit within whatever that number has historically been?
Yeah. So what we did last year is we took we had about $85,000 budgeted for female inmates, so that's still in there in the budget. And then we had we took the staff that we had last year, restructured, and then put everything extra in an extra help line. And so we have quite a large pool in that extra help line for this year. But with the reorg, we'll actually still have a pretty good sum of money in there for next year that we can do extra help too.
Okay, so we would stay within our historical request for salaries or help or whatever however you want to term it.
We would stay within our same financial footprint, our same fiscal footprint.
Okay,
I'm not asking for any additional funds.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So then in next year's budget, we would theoretically then reduce our temporary help line and increase our help line the same amount. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we would just take the money from temporary help and use it to fund the org chart, a more robust org chart.
Okay. And you factored in health insurance and employee benefits in that analysis?
Yeah, I had Christy run. She said that the only area that I mean, obviously health insurance is kind of a factor because we don't know if we hired somebody and then they got really sick, it could change that. But she did not anticipate that it would change it at all. She figured we'd be just fine.
Okay. Well, as long as we stay within that same fiscal footprint, I'm okay with it.
Make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve moving forward with the reorganization as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that.
Go
Thank
forth
you.
and do great things.
We will.
Good luck tomorrow.
All right. Thank you for that, too.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
With that being said, we've come to the end of our agenda. We will quit recording, and we are through for this meeting, this day.
Holy cow.